And everybody stand up for Pledge Allegiance.
I pledge
To
allegiance
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Clerk Noble here. Trustee Smith.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Trustee Ruggles.
Here.
Trustee Voorhees.
Present.
Trustee Powell and Supervisor Kowal's excused this evening. I'd like to make a motion to have Trustee Ruggles chair the meeting for interim supervisor for tonight's meeting.
Second?
Second by Trustee Powell.
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Do I vote on that?
Yes.
Aye? Okay. Okay, so we moved on to item number 4, approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Item number 5, public comment. If anybody in the audience has something they would like to comment on that's not on the agenda for tonight's meeting, they're welcome to speak at this time. Absolutely. If they have something they'd like to talk about that's on the agenda, they can wait until we get to that item, and you'll be given the opportunity to speak. You'll have 3 minutes to speak if you'd like, if there's anyone out there. Seeing nobody, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is item number 6. It is made up of revenue and expenses, checks, department reports, and there's a senior advisory council appointment of Loretta Hall this evening. So I'm looking for a motion on the consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll support that.
Motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 7, the minutes from the regular board meeting of May 21st, 2024. Anybody has any comments on the minutes? Now would be the time.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on May 21st, 2024 as submitted.
Motion,
I'll second that.
support by Clerk Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Was that everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't hear you down there. Motion passes. Now, item number 8, we have a presentation. Plant Moran is here for a year-end audit presentation in the year 2023. You may come up to the podium. If you could state your name.
All right, thank you for having us. So my name is Chris Gilbert. I am the senior audit manager on the engagement, and I have with me Nicole Hart, who is the senior on the engagement. So normally Pam Hill would be out here, but she's out of town, so you're stuck with us tonight. So we'll be really high level, and we're just here to give the results of the 2023 audit. So I guess before we get started, we did want to thank the 3 full-time elected officials, as well as Elaine Homeister, Dawn and Kim and the rest of the team, just for their efforts and help getting us to the finish line. We spent about near 400 hours auditing the books and records of the township this year, and just we really appreciate their diligence and timeliness in getting a response to us. So there were a couple of changes this year just in the GASB world and just in general. So there were a couple of new accounting standards, neither of which had an impact on the township this year, so you got a little bit of a break this year. The finance director and the team did have to evaluate the 2 new standards, but ultimately there was no impact, and we concurred with that conclusion. There was also a couple of new auditing standards that impact all audit firms as well as all local units of government. So one of the bigger auditing standards was just requiring auditors to take a deeper dive into the internal control environment of local units and just clients in general. So with that being said, we did have a few internal control recommended items that were just really best practices. I know it's difficult being a smaller unit, and sometimes it's challenging to have segregation of duties, and the township has always had good segregation of duties with that being the case. So we just had a couple of recommendations just to help strengthen the internal controls. Beyond that, we just had one proposed journal entry. It was just really a year-end accrual entry related to retainage payable. Ultimately, it's just amounts withheld from from payment to contractors until the end of the project. So really, it's just a year-end accrual. Management ultimately decided to pass on that simply because it's very immaterial. So ultimately, the books and records were in great shape as usual, and which means that the numbers that you get on a regular basis, you can feel confident in and rely on. So we're gonna move on to our audit presentation, and what we like to do here is just give a few financial statement highlights. We're not gonna go through all 70 pages of the financial statements, which is why we give our little presentation here. I know it's a hot one tonight, so we'll get you out of here, but Nicole's gonna go through a couple of the slides really quick. We did issue an unmodified opinion this year, once again, which is the highest assurance that we can give. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it over to Nicole to go over some slides.
Hi. Yes.
I'm controlling this, so
Okay. I'll
nod
give
your
you a
head
little
or
nod.
yell
You can go
at
to
me
the
or
next
stomp
one.
your foot
Go
and
to
I'll
the next
change
slide.
it, so.
Yep, go ahead. All right, so as Chris said, my name's Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm just going to high level go over primarily the general fund today. That's where the most activity is. So that's what my slides will primarily be about. This first slide here goes over the general fund revenue and transfers. It's a 5-year period look back. You can see there that far right column, 2023, we had 6.6 million in revenue and transfers. So what you can see by looking at this slide, last year was a little bit higher than the rest, but you guys had 2.2 million in ARPA revenue in 2022. So if we take that out, you guys are just right on track, pretty consistent over the last 5 years. One other thing I wanted to point out in this slide is that your two largest revenue sources, so if you look at the bottom, that big teal portion, and then the gold portion on top of that is state shared revenue and property tax, and that has been consistent over the last 5 years. We can go to the next one. So this next slide goes over general fund expenditures and transfers. So for 2023, we had 5.6 million in expenditures and transfers. Similar to the previous slide, we can see the 2 years prior were a little bit higher. Those were simply due to transfers to fund capital projects. So we had 3.3 in 2022 and 5.3 million in 2021. If we take that out of the equation, right on track again, between 5.5 and 6 million in expenditures. So you can go ahead and go to the next one.
Could I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
In the revenues, we ended up with a total of $6.6 million in revenues.
Yes.
In the expenditures, we were only at 5.6 million, so we have $1 million difference there.
Correct.
Where does that million come into play in the audit?
That's a great point, actually. So on slide 4 or 5, and we'll kind of see how it plays out. So
Okay.
I can break that down a little bit further on.
No, okay, if it's later on, I'm good.
Yes.
I just didn't want to forget.
Yeah, absolutely. So on this slide here, this slide represents, we're looking at general fund expenditures in comparison to, excluding transfers on this slide, in comparison to the unassigned fund balance. So an unassigned fund balance, it is the fund balance after any restrictions or assignments or any non-spendable fund balance. What I want to show you here on this slide is that if you look near the bottom, that percentage there, it's been pretty consistent right around, plus or minus 30, right around 30% year after year. So what that means is if the township weren't to bring in any revenue, you could pay those expenditures for about 3.5 months. So consistent is the word of the day here on these slides that I'm presenting.
And just to circle back on your question, so essentially you brought in $1 million more revenue than expenditures this current year. So this slide is presenting unassigned fund balance. So your fund balance is made up of multiple components. So you have about just under 7.4 million in total in fund balance as of 12/31/23. Most of that is tied up either in restrictions, by an external authority or assigned and earmarked and set aside. So the township has set aside, $2.5 million for road improvements. They've set aside some for legacy costs and capital projects. So most of that is designated or earmarked or restricted. What here is essentially showing you is the amount that's not tied up in any other restrictions or anything. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead to the next one. The last slide that I have here shows all governmental fund expenditures, not just the general fund. So consistency again, we can see for 2023, we're at 20 million. It's up just a little bit, 630,000 from the prior year. What I wanted to point out on this slide is that the two biggest categories that take up over about 50% of those expenditures and have for the last 5 years is public safety and general government, those two, that teal, blue, and the orange portions on there. I'm going to turn it back over to Chris. He's going to go over the water and sewer fund.
All right. So we just got a couple more slides left. So this next one here is water fund and similar trend. So looking at the last 5 years. So here we're looking at operating revenue in the teal compared to operating expenses in the orange. And then that little line going across is your operating income or loss. So you can kind of look at the health of the fund over the last 5 years here. So it's good to look at this over a period of time just to see and to ensure really at the end of the day, the water and sewer fund, the users of the system are designed to cover the cost of the system. So that's a good indicator of, that's what that operating income or loss line is. It's a good indicator of whether the current users of the system are covering the costs associated with them using the system, essentially. So as you look at this, it's relatively consistent over the past few years, but certainly recommend management to just continue to monitor these amounts going forward just to make sure that the health of the fund is where you want it. And then real quick, we're going to jump to the sewer fund on the next slide. So similar concept here. This is presenting the last 3 years of activity. So similar to the previous slide, this is the third year of us showing the sewer fund as it was previously not an enterprise fund, so it now meets the criteria to be a enterprise fund. So now you have 3 years of data to look at this sewer fund and the activity. So revenue has been stable over the last 3 years, but expenses have increased a little bit each year, resulting in an operating loss over the last 2 years. So we know, billing is handled at the county, and it's a good idea just to continue to monitor and look at the driving forces behind these numbers just to ensure you're at the right spot when it comes to this one in particular, just to ensure that the users of the system are covering the cost associated with the system.
Chris, what fund does the township have to stabilize or to cover the loss in the water and sewer fund?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So currently there are some non-operating revenues as well that aren't being factored into here. So there's some benefit charges. I believe there's connection fees with I think you collect some on behalf of commerce as well, but there's some, obviously investment income as well. But essentially, at the end of the day, this is kind of where you're at here.
So we just carry $500,000 worth of loss on the books, but we have those expenses you show here. So does the general operating fund of the township, general fund of the township cover those losses?
So it's a good question. So essentially at the end of the day, if you were to add in those connection fees, you would be about break even right now.
Oh, okay.
If you were to add those in, but those are again non-operating. So right here, it's not giving you the full picture, but it's giving you a full picture of the operating piece of it and what the users are covering in part of the system. So that part is not part of this, but once you factor those in, you're pretty much at break even right now. But again, this is kind of what's driving the system here, so.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
A little asterisk there would have helped, so I appreciate that.
We'll make that a note for next year for sure, just to explain that. And then the next slide, unless there's any other questions, before we move to this last slide. So favorite topic, legacy costs here. So pension and OPEB. So this is really a snapshot at a point in time of both of your two long-term obligations. So the first that we'll talk about would be your pension fund, which is at MERS, and that is in the teal on the left-hand side. So again, we're looking at a 5-year picture here, which is a good way to look at this. So if you look at that teal bar, at the end of 2023, your pension fund was 62% funded, or at 16.6 million liability. And you'll notice a big swing from last year. The reason for this is a snapshot at a point in time, but your MERS plan is reported on a year lag. So although this is your fiscal year is 2023, it's always a year behind, and this is consistent for every local unit in the state of Michigan that's at MERS. So these numbers are really as of 2022. And as we know, the market took a downturn back then, so that's really the main driver in this decrease. We know now that the market came back, as you'll see with the OPEB plan. So next year, that liability, all things considered, holding the same, that should be back in line with where it's been the last several years. And the township has been contributing extra where it can to help fund this long-term liability. And then the good news here is if you look at the OPEB plan in the orange bar, that one's going down, which is a good thing. So that was just under 75% funded at the end of 2023, which is significant because if you look at 5 years ago, it was just at 37%. So it's nearly doubled in the funded percentage. So that puts you at just under 3 million at the end of 2023. So the main driver of that, again, was the investment, that better asset performance and your investment income as the market turned around in 2023. And then there were some minor adjustments that are out of your control with actuarial estimates and assumptions. But ultimately, again, the township has really been extra and additionally funding this one for the last several years, and you can see this, and you can really see the impact of those additional contributions. And a lot of people ask, where's a good spot to be here? And I would say, so the state wants you to be at 60% for pension and 40% for OPEB, or you're underfunded. So you're definitely meeting both of those. And I would say you're in better shape than many other local units when it comes to both of these, especially OPEB with it being at 75%. I've seen some as low as 5%, honestly. So the township has really, over the last 5 to 10 years, been working on those long-term legacy costs. But that's really everything we have. There's been a lot of great questions. Any other questions before we give it back?
Anybody have any questions?
No, thank you. You're always very thorough.
Thank you so much.
Again, for presenting and coming out.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you all so much. Appreciate it, and we're a pleasure to be here.
I'd just like to thank you guys again and thank Elaine and Dawn, our finance director and assistant finance director, working diligently with your group. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks. Okay, moving on to item 9A, old business. This is the second reading, looking for adoption to the amendment to the zoning ordinances, Articles 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. If anybody has any questions, and this is from Mr. O'Neill, so I don't know if he has any comments on this.
I don't. This is what you saw and had considered at first reading last month after we kind of put a pause on it to kind of clean a couple of things up. And I think it's in good order. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we certainly support what's in front of you.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to approve second reading amendment to zoning ordinances, Article 2.0, definitions 3.0, zoning districts 4.0, use standards 5.0, site standards 6.0, development procedures, and 7.0, administration appeals and enforcements.
Support.
A motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 9B, second reading of the ordinance amendment and amend the code ordinances and rescind the fee ordinance number 129. So this is continuation of that. Sean, this is yours again.
Fee ordinance would be the clerk's office.
Oh, clerk, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just like last week, we would be, saving thousands and thousands of dollars in publication to the taxpayers by doing such, by going to this system, which, again, I'd like to thank my deputy clerk and Lisa for working on this. The history was years back, Lisa was with a different firm and it didn't go through. So she brought it back up and they worked diligently with the clerk's office, and here we are, and we're saving the taxpayers' money. So it's a tremendous deal for White Lake Township residents.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance amendment to amend the code of ordinances and rescind the fee ordinance number 129.
I have motion, support by
Could I
Ms.
ask a
Smith.
question under discussion?
Yes.
If a resident were to try to find out what a fee was for a charge here in the township, it used to be in the fee ordinance. You should go through and be able to see all the fees that the township charges. Where would they look now to find out what the fee would be?
It'll be on our website,
Under what designation?
fee ordinances.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we're rescinding the fee ordinance, so we must be establishing a new one then.
We're
It's
just
gonna be-
changing the process.
Yeah, we're changing the process.
Okay, so,
So now, basically, go ahead.
We're changing it from an ordinance to a resolution, as you know.
Okay,
The
yes.
resolution will be on the website, but there also is a mechanism where your ordinances are online through Muni Code. And oftentimes, Muni Code will put a link to, for example, the zoning ordinance. We can ask them to add the link for the fee resolution if you want it all to be in the same document. But that's the code of ordinances. It would just be then a link to the website where the fee resolution will be found.
okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
I think that would be helpful, whatever's simplest, for our residents to be able to find the information. So if we can add that link.
I think Douglas will have a list, it'll still say.
You got to go to you have to go to the microphone if you're going to speak.
I think there'll still be a
You got to
list,
state your name, please.
Trish Pergament, where it says fee ordinance, where they have a link on their page, that it will still have like a schedule saying all the different prices as they update. I'm assuming Douglas will update those, no?
Not on Muni Code, because Muni Codes are ordinances.
No,
code
but
of
I
ord-
think they have a link on their page.
They would, we can ask them to put a link that says the fee ordinance was rescinded on whatever date, the township adopted a fee resolution, and add the link to that. So it's just a technical way that we could talk about later,
Okay.
but we can probably make that work.
The whole point of this is it expedites the process, and we're going to be saving, some of the stuff that Sean's office does, our Director of Community Development, can be up, when we go through the Oakland Press, would be up upwards of $1,500 a publication.
Yep.
So, as newspapers are dying out, and there's still legislation that we have to go through a paper, which is what you see, the new legal journal, Oakland County Legal. So papers are kind of dying out, so we're trying to expedite that and save the money.
Okay, thank you.
All set, Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Okay, I have motion and support by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Move on to item 10A, new business. Request to approve audit contract with Plant Moran for the years of 2024 to 2026. The township has been discussing extending a contract with Plant Moran. For 2024, it would be for $51,000, 25 would be $52,500, and 26 would be $54,000. And I think if anybody would like to comment, Mr. Roman, I think you've been handling some of
Yeah,
this.
so we kind of researched it, and the increases for these audit fees have been so minimal.
Yeah.
And we've done really well with Plant Moran. They know our systems. We work well with them. But I think if you went back 10 years, it's only about a 20% difference.
It's been going up basically from 2014 to now. It's basically 1% a year is what it's went up. Hasn't even kept up with the rate of inflation.
Yeah, so I think we all agreed that we were very reasonable figures for 3-year deals. So I'll put that in the form of a motion to approve.
Motion, okay.
I'll second that.
Support, any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I just did a quick calculation, and if they were to charge us by the hour, it's about $127.50 an hour, which for a company as respected as Plant Moran is, that's very reasonable, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
I'd like to give credit to Elaine, and again, she went vigorously in her negotiations and pulled all this information up, so we went back and forth, and she did a great job. And Treasurer Roman and I got to sit in with her.
Great. We had motion, we had support. Who was support?
Support.
Did we have support before?
Clerk
I
Noble.
think Anthony.
Oh, yeah,
Anthony
yeah,
was
yeah, that's
support.
right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 10B, we have Resolution 24-027. It is tentatively declaring the intention to establish a special assessment district to be known as the Burgess Bay Weed Control and Lake Improvement 2024 to 2028. And this comes from the Township Assessor's Office. He's already here. Dave Heber.
Good evening. This is an extension of a existing special assessment for the lake improvement of a specific bay on Cedar Island Lake. The Township Board's been approving this since the records I have from back to 2009. This will be a 5-year assessment that's petition-based. I know Sandy Burlinger's here. She circulated the petition to some other residents. I don't know your pleasure if they'd like to speak, or if you'd like to hear from them.
Sure. Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Brillinger, and I'm in charge of Burgess Bay.
Can you state your address for the record?
It's 555 Burgess, White Lake.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here tonight because I have been the president of Burgess Bay for the past umpteen years. I want to add 2 of my neighbors' names to the list so that they can have any approval done as well. They live on the other side of the bay from me, so they can handle all those neighbors, and then I'll handle the ones on my side. So I didn't know if I needed to come because I want to put their names on the agenda as well.
You know, I'm not sure.
I got his number, I'm calling and asking.
Go ahead.
Dave?
Right now, what we're approving is the special assessment to collect the money and the revenue to treat the lake itself. You're working with the private contractor, and how the residents see fit to work together as far as notifying taxpayers with your contractor is completely up to you. I mean, if you wanted to speak in support of it or opposed or neutral on it, that's really what we're here for. When you have incur bills from your contractor, you approve them, maybe do both sides of the bay, and then once that's approval is met, they're sent to finance, and Elaine and Dawn disperse the money to pay your contractor.
Yeah. So I will just contact then the person that treats our lake.
Yep.
Okay, and then I'm going to add their names to it then, so there'll be 3 names on there versus 1.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
Could I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Mr. Heber, our agenda says that this is the a tentative declaring its intention.
Yeah.
Now, normally, that is just one of the 3 required resolutions to establish and approve the special assessment district. If this board so approves this, do we then send out a letter to each homeowner stating that this board has established its intent to establish?
Yes, and we'll hold the regular 2 public hearings for the establishment and then the confirmation of the role. We actually sent letters out to the residents on this special assessment for the intention as well, due to the fact that there's only 55 roughly % of the people that had signed the petition. Keeping in mind, it doesn't mean 45% are against it. Once they hit the threshold, they can technically stop, and we would move forward. But we wanted to make sure that the residents on Burgess Bay involved with this were notified that this was moving forward. And this is not a public hearing, but this is just like, as you say, declaring your intention. We will notice this in the paper, and we'll send the notices out for the public hearing for July to establish and August to confirm.
Did you say this has existed in the past?
Yeah, since 2009.
Since '09? So it must have expired and then you have to
Yeah,
start
it's
the process?
this is for a 5-year.
So it can't just be a renewal, it has to be totally reestablished?
Correct.
Okay.
So this is not a new one, correct? This is an existing.
Correct. This is existing, same dollar amount.
It is or isn't a new one? I'm sorry. It is a new one. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Mr.
The new one
Treasurer?
that just reestablishes a previous.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay, yep.
They've been treating the bay since 2009
New one.
under this program.
Yeah.
Mr. Roman?
Yeah, motion to approve intent resolution 24-027 for Burgess Bay weed control.
Support?
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
Thank you.
I was on.
Come back sooner. We like the audience.
All right. Item 10C, we have Resolution 24-028, tentatively declaring its intention to establish a special assessment district to be known as the Meadow Lane Road Maintenance. Mr. Heber?
This is another intention resolution, and this will go through the same process for an establishment, if approved, for an establishment and a confirmation. This is an 8-parcel special assessment. This dates back to 2006. Their prior special assessment is expiring, and they've petitioned. They received about roughly 87% of the 8 parcels, so 7 out of the 8 parcels signed off on this. I don't know if there's anyone here from Meadow Lane that wants to address the board.
Any resident that wishes to speak? No? Okay, all right, thank you. So we have another SAD in front of us. Anybody have a motion? Mr. Treasurer?
Sure, motion to approve intent resolution 24-028 for Meadow Lane Road Maintenance SAD.
A motion?
Support. And then a question to Mr. Eber. These are both paid for or adopted through Act 188 process, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? No? We have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 10D, request to approve CityWorks license annual maintenance renewal. And this is from DPS. So Mr. Potter.
Thank you. Yes, so this is our annual CityWorks license. We've been bringing this to you since 2017, I believe. It's one of the 3 main software packages that we use in DPS, along with BSNA and Laserfish. This package is our mapping software, asset management software, work order management system. We use it to track maintenance tasks on all of our township utilities assets, including now township property maintenance, inspections, GIS mapping. This allows us to get as-built drawings in the hands of our operators. They can send and receive work orders, mapping photos of past work, have complete histories of past work on every asset in the system without generating any paper records. We can send any number of documents back and forth. It's all cloud-based. So we started this with the SAW grant. That was a stormwater sanitary asset management grant. Then continued on using it with water, as well as, like I said, now we're using it for maintenance and fleet maintenance and everything. So the cost has gone up. Last year was the first year we increased from 5 licenses to 7 due to the staff in DPS increasing. This year there's a 5% increase in their costs, just like most of us, we've all experienced increases in our operating costs, but we'd like to continue using this software, and so I'm asking the board to approve the annual maintenance license in an amount not to exceed $12,862.50, and that the license be able to be executed by myself or the township supervisor.
Great, thank you.
I just have a question. I read that same paragraph like 2 or 3 times, all the things that it tracks. I was just like, really? Like, I was just amazed. But my only other question, so that was like as impressive. Is there any way we could do a longer contract, or do they only give out 1-year contracts?
That's a good question. I believe they probably do longer contracts. What I'd like to do, if possible, is approve this.
No, absolutely.
And then I can certainly work with them to see if we can extend or lock in that pricing for a longer contract. Alternatively, I did ask the supervisor to put this, as it's a core software that we've all decided that we want to go down this route, to put this into the consent agenda. But I can do it however you guys like. I would
No, I was thinking.
more than
like,
happy to reach out to
even like
them
a
and
cost
see if we
saving,
can
a work
lengthen
saving
that out.
for you too. And I had a couple different thoughts when I was reading that.
It's a great
So
idea.
I would love to give you guys a presentation on how this works. I could definitely plug in my laptop right now. My operators can get to all of our maintenance records from their phones, they all have laptops. They can get to it from their laptops, their desktops, anywhere you have a computer, they can get to our complete maintenance records. This has allowed us to really be efficient and get information out there immediately. I share, Michelle may contact me for information, and I can find it in sometimes literally seconds. So we're able to keep our contractors working faster. We're able to get customers information that they may be looking for. We can pull up this complete service history on a home from the time the service was installed to the meter installation, the certificate of occupancy, any service history that we have on the meter, all the way through the entire life of the asset, track those costs, trend of the costs. I can tell you what percentage of time my operators spend on hydrant maintenance versus plant maintenance. It really gives us a lot of insight as to what we're spending our money on and what we need to be budgeting for. But the real beauty of it is getting the mapping software and the record drawings and the things the operators need right at their fingertips wherever they are with the connection to the internet.
I think that's a great point, Andrea. I think it would be worthwhile to look into a 3-year contract on this.
I can certainly do that.
No, so with that, I'm gonna put that in a form of a motion that that DPS requests the approval of the City Works annual maintenance license at the current level of 7 users for the amount not to exceed $12,860.50, and to be executed by Aaron and/or the township supervisor.
A motion?
Second.
Support by Clerk Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks.
I think in that he also asked for a new truck, right? No, I'm kidding.
Nope. Nope.
That's in the consent.
We're not
That's in the
doing that.
consent agenda, yeah, that's right.
A new dump truck.
Sore subject.
10E, request to approve invoice for desktop computer replacements. And this memo was presented to us by Deputy Supervisor Pergament. It's all
Hello,
yours.
everyone. I'm back again with more IT. During the contract discussions, we talked about the computers aging, and that was one of the discussions we had about approving the contract with the labor, because we knew we were going to have a big expenditure coming. And some of our computers are, I think they're, I was trying to find the date we ordered. I think we ordered these in 2019-20. They're 4 to 5 years old. We're starting to have some failures in some of our computers where we're having to replace them, right away. We have some that have some quirky things going on. We have so much data and use on these computers right now that we are looking at upgrading to larger capacity for some of us, especially those of us dealing with a lot of data, and people like Sean and Nick, they're looking at drawings and things like that all the time. So most of them we're going with like an i5 we're looking at, but for some of the heavier users, we're looking at the Core i7s to be faster for us. and upgrading to a 32 gig for those versus a 16 for the majority. The idea is to kind of split this purchase into two over this year and next year to make the installation easier for everyone, including VC3, to have 38 done all at one time. I think last time was a bit much. And it'll allow us to spread the cost over 2 years' budget. So this is the quote for that. For that purchase, I have 2 computers since I put this together. I'm not doing the PD ones. They're going to handle their own. They said they don't think they have very many that need replaced, but they had a failure this week, and then I had a fire department one also, so that had to be replaced immediately outside of this. So we have a need to do this and to get going on it, and so that's where we're at. We're at a quote for, where did I put my number? 28,859 for 19 desktops.
And the professional services, that's covered in
And
the
the
contract?
installation is covered, so they put it in but backed it back out, just to show you what we're saving on that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Mr. Powell?
If we were to order them today, when would they be ready, up and running?
It shouldn't take too long, but I can't answer that question until they order them and then get them scheduled, so
A month approximately, Trish, I'm not gonna hold it to you.
it could be a month to 2 months. It would depend on, once they come in, they have to look at their schedule to see
Oh, absolutely.
what they can do.
So it wouldn't be like a six-month wait.
Yeah, so I don't think it would take an extremely long time, but
Mr. Powell?
Are we talking about laptops or towers?
desktops with towers.
Desktop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our
I apologize that
desktops. Yeah.
desktop has a tower next to
Tower,
it?
Yes,
yeah.
Okay.
We don't need to replace monitors unless you're experiencing an issue, so it's strictly the desktop,
All right,
tower,
The other question I had was, even though VC3 is our supplier, would it make any sense at all to get a third-party quote for this exact
I'm going to say no,
specification?
and I'll tell you why. Because I've already had an issue with Anthony's computer. We had to replace his a little while back, and it was doing all kinds of funky things. The new one, they handle everything with respect to warranty for us, the price to ship it back, everything. They will manage all of that. If we go buy them somewhere else, they will install them and they will support them. But anytime we have a warranty issue, we are going to be doing that all by ourselves. Anything wrong, we're going to have to contact where we purchased it from and deal with it all ourselves.
Okay.
My preference would be to not do that, to let them do what they're supposed to do and manage that.
Well, I guess I, for one, would like to follow the requisition policy a little bit better. Even if the other price was lower, then we can make a decision that, yeah, it makes sense to go higher in order to keep it under one house. But if it was half the cost, we might say, okay, it might be worth saving 10 grand to not you go through this
I
company.
mean, I could probably benchmark a price for you just by looking online and get you that info, even without calling someone. I mean,
At least in the future, know that I'd
Yeah.
like to at least know the comparison. And then your argument that it should stay in one place might, at least we can put a dollar value to that instead of just, I like to have the information than not, put it
Okay.
that way. So, thank you.
If I may, I would tend to agree. I don't mind like tabling and trying to see if we can get other bids. I just did some quick math. This makes it approximately $1,500 per tower.
Yeah. That's a lot of money for a tower in today's world.
It is, yeah. So, I mean, could we actually have real bids instead of,
we could, I have no problem,
online?
whatever you guys want to do.
Well, I'm in support of approving this because, I mean, I see this dollar amount and that's how much I paid for my computer earlier this year with no one to do anything but me.
I mean, I
like
could
the fact that-
potentially go
yeah.
right on the website and pull some information up, so.
In past, VC3 has been a little high on equipment costs.
We have that CW, Dawn has a website where she can order, where we have ordered laptops from occasionally. We can go to that website and have her try to pull up the same information and see what the price is.
So there's an urgent need to replace 2. We could possibly replace, agree to replace those 2 and then look for the other 17 for comparables.
What if there's an emergency,
Yeah, what's-
like mine and Sean, I believe you had yours replaced.
Could we do,
And Cole, so we replaced 2 in the clerk's office, 1 Sean's, it's 3, and then who else?
Hannah's went,
Or-
and then 2 or 3 at Dublin went. Those ones were they were older than
But
the
you
rest.
replaced those without the board. So if an emergency arises and one needs to be replaced.
It was under $10,000,
Right,
so.
Yeah.
so you can replace
Yeah,
one if
that's-
an emergency comes up in the
Yeah, I
meantime.
just want to make sure that's okay with the board.
Yeah. Or could we approve the amount and try to do better and then wait? And see what we come up with. And just not pull the trigger. It's up to you guys.
I was just going to say, managing these computers is nearly a darn full-time job. Someone's computer is always going haywire, whatever it is. Maybe you can't open a software. Maybe your computer keeps shutting off, whatever it is. If we buy these from someone else, Trish,
They're still going to support us. As far as support our software, support our, like if you can't get into it, fixing issues, they're not going to support like technical problems with the
A
computer.
hardware issue
Yeah.
then becomes a warranty.
Yeah,
Yes, more
and shipping it back and, sending out a tech. I don't know, they might not like to actually fix it. We might have to go to the other company to send somebody out to fix it. That I'm not even 100% sure of. But they will support it. It's just going to be to have this number of computers and then have to deal with any kinds of issues that come up like that. It's,
No, again, I
Yeah.
don't mind spending the money for the township, but I'd like to know how much money I'm giving up in the open market versus going to a select company. If we approve this, and going with VC3 and we're in our new building, we have whole new operation in the new building. This equipment will then tie directly into that, or are we going to be told in 2 years, these won't work in our new setup
no,
now?
it's all coming with us. So
Yeah, I agree.
they won't be obsolete for that reason. The reason the reason the ones that we have now are becoming obsolete is, 1, they're having failures. 2, they are aging out, so they won't be able to upgrade to Windows 11 once they get, to a certain point. So we won't be able to upgrade our Windows. But the new computers will support 11 and beyond to a certain point. I'm not sure how far they go, but they will support that. And these are also solid state towers, so there's no moving parts in them anymore, so they should last even an additional year. They should be more robust in that way.
So our current towers are Windows 10 with a mechanical hard drive. That's pretty old stuff.
So,
Is this specific hardware, is that something that VC3 wants us to have, like this specific computer?
we requested so we've always kind of been dealing with Dell, but we requested an Intel Core, because we think those are good. They're actually working with Lenovo now, and I noticed they quoted the police department on Lenovo. It was more expensive, so I asked them to change it back to a Dell. So they have a relationship with Dell, and I guess now they have a relationship with Lenovo, but we still can get Dell. I don't know if they have other relationships. I didn't ask that question, but those are the ones that I've seen them quote. But like I said, we might be able to just pull this up on Dawn's that website that she uses. And I might be able to get a very quick answer to see how much they're marking it up. So whatever you guys want to do, and we want to bring it back next month, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Can I make a motion?
Sure can.
Just make a motion to approve this purchase for not to exceed $29,000. In the future, bring us some comparables, just that we can use for
Yep.
reasonableness.
And I can give you I can send you all an email too, and if I think it's outrageous, then I'll stop it, so I don't.
Well, Trish, you've been dealing with computers and computer maintenance for years.
Yeah,
If
I
you
don't
thought
think-
this number was out of whack.
I don't think that they are
you wouldn't
putting a
have
big markup on
suggested
them.
it. And so I'll put the motion on the table.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, we have motion, we have support. Should we do a roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Trustee Smith. Trustee Smith.
I'm thinking. I would really have preferred to have some comparables, so with that, I'm going to vote no.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank
I'm
you
gonna
so
hang
much.
out for the garbage one.
Okay. All right, yeah. Item 10F, Resolution 24-030, Charter Township of White Lake consenting to the assignment of its waste hauling services agreement from GFL Environmental USA, Inc. to Priority Waste LLC. So, once again, our waste hauler sold us out. And we get to decide if we're gonna go along with the new provider. So Trish, if you'd like to comment?
Sure. I don't know if we have a lot of choices at this moment. So I think it would be to your benefit to approve it.
We can't do anything else, right? Or we won't get
Yeah,
our
we don't
garbage
have
picked up?
anything else right now. I know that the people that have gone with Priority really seem to like them. And so hopefully we will too. I know that a lot of people are experiencing some transition issues already. I think that's.
Well, did a lot of the GFL employees go to Priority?
The intent was they were going to hire their their actual drivers. I don't know the answer to how well that's going because I've seen that they've been missing some garbage in other communities, and we've had a little bit of issues with some recycling.
I just assumed it's because the employees left.
I'm thinking some might have left, but I don't know where they're going, so. But they were intending to hire the majority of the drivers, was my understanding. I just talked to Gary today, our route supervisor, who we had told them we would like to keep around because he's done a really great job for us. He's still there, so I think they're keeping him, but I haven't.
He doesn't know either?
Well, I know he had an interview back when this all came about, so I'm assuming it went well if he's still there. I did not get a confirmation, so. So I think that's why we're in pretty good shape because we've got him, managing things, but I just was at a friend's and her garbage is still there from Friday in Highland, so.
Yeah, well, I figured the service was gonna get worse and worse until the transition.
Until it gets
takes place,
better.
right?
But we don't really have a huge choice. They sound like the people that went with them like them. There were people planning to transition to them anyway. We've got, we have Waste Management, you've got Duncan, Republic was the one that dumped us, so they're not even interested. I've heard that Duncan doesn't even really quote this side of town when they get sent a bid. I've heard Waste Management is expensive. It's all anecdotal till you go out for bid. I heard that there's Tringali over in Royal Oak. I've never seen a truck out here, so I don't really know who our choices are at this short notice.
Sure. Any comments?
Lisa, I think our council had a comment.
I just, so one of the attorneys in our office attended a meeting, and I don't know the initials, RRRASOC. It's a group of local governments that,
Yeah.
Oakland County.
in Oakland
Yeah, I
County.
know what it is.
They had a meeting with Priority Waste, and so she got a little bit more information that I'm happy to share if you want to hear.
Sure.
73 municipalities will be coming over from GFL to Priority. Priority's keeping the GFL drivers and is purchasing 400 trucks from GFL. They are equipping the trucks with 6 different cameras and will upgrade the trucks and paint them over time. They have metrics on everything. They will honor the 4 corners of the contract. They will not change days of service, but may pick up at different times than when GFL picked up. They're not providing new cans or carts, but will consider that as part of a new contract if requested. All service changes should be corrected within 90 days of taking over.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm not sure. They're
repeat what you
acknowledging that it's gonna be a tough transition, but they expect to have everything ironed out. We asked about municipalities that have contracts expiring next year, and they indicated that they're going to reach out to every municipality that has a contract expiring in the next 18 months and ask for a contract extension.
So I had discussion with the contact that called me to ask if they were agreeable to honor the contract extension, because we do have in our contract that we can extend for 1 more year at like terms, which means everything's the same, but the same 2.5% increase that we were doing every year. And they said they would, and I think they probably prefer that at this point because they're taking on so much that it would be probably difficult for them to begin quoting processes. And so I want to approve the resolution, but the separate conversation was to start thinking about whether or not you guys want to consider extending this contract for 2026 at like terms, because it's something just to start thinking about. Dave and I will need to know, we would need to have, if we don't extend it and we decide to go out to bid, we have to have everything ready to bring back to the board we're thinking June of next summer in order to get it through the process, to get the new whatever on to the tax bills if we don't extend it to 2026. Keep in mind, they just had a major purchase, and I think extending it 1 more year is a way to keep our costs under control, because we don't know what kind of inflation could have occurred over the last few years. We know there's been a lot of inflation. We don't know if we go out to bid what that's going to mean for us at this point. And I did give you a little, I didn't finish, not everybody replied. I gave you a little cost comparison to the communities that did respond. We're in a ballpark with a few communities being a fair amount more than us. So I think we're in range of a decent contract price right now, which could change if we go out to bid with the inflation that's occurred and not giving them time to settle in.
Sure. Any discussion? Mr. Roman?
Well, if you all remember the last time we went out to bid on our garbage contract, GFL they were by far the low bidder. I know Waste Management was at least double what we're paying for our residents. So, right now, this move to priority waste, it kind of seems like a no-brainer. I feel more comfortable after hearing what Lisa had to say. And I would also support extending this service through 2026 with a 2.5% increase. We all know where the real rate of inflation is, and it's a heck of a lot higher than that. So, so I support not only transitioning, but extending for the other year.
Can we amend the resolution to add that, Lisa? No? Okay.
What'd you say? No?
Right.
We can't?
I would prefer that we prepare a resolution extending the contract because we're going to need to share that with priority. And there's no reason, we still have a year and a half before you have to take any
Yeah,
action.
we can come back in a month or
Later.
two and formalize it. But, I mean, we need to approve this today, and then we can come back in a month or two once they settle in.
And at least now you know what our intent is.
Right, that was the point. I didn't expect a decision. I just wanted to know how you guys felt about it.
Is there anything for you to review?
I just have a
I
couple
don't
of
think
things.
that.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Smith?
Thank you. Lisa mentioned 72 communities went with them. I read that they have GFL has 75 total right now. So that means almost everybody has transitioned over to priority. But my one question is, you said no new cans or carts. So how will our residents handle that? Because that is kind of important to residents.
Yeah.
and they need-
So under our current contract, I guess that's something that we probably should, I can have a conversation with the priority about. Under the current contract, they are allowed one cart, garbage cart, and one bin, and they can purchase a bigger recycling cart. But they were very liberal with us because they knew that we had a lot of old Republic carts that were falling apart. So as people were calling to replace Republic carts, they weren't making them pay for them.
They weren't?
So, no, because when I had negotiations with them, I said, these are really old, so you're either gonna replace them or you're just gonna, or you're gonna agree to have a gentleman's
Be $65.
agreement.
But because we
right
had so
here.
many broken, they weren't. So we're kind of at that crossroads again where I hear from residents, they have a lot of broken carts again. So will they be
Yeah.
able to purchase or can we
We'll need to-
negotiate getting some?
Yeah, they will be able to
placed or-
purchase, but, I mean, they have to have carts, right? I mean, so we'll have to talk about that, but the thing I'm worried about is them honoring the very old cart replacements that they've been doing for us.
Right.
And then typically, when they've damaged a cart, they've replaced it without charging them. So,
Scott, can I answer?
you know.
Hang on, I've got a question for Lisa. So we're gonna, if we approve this resolution, then it goes to priority, and then they're gonna sign it? Is that how this works?
No.
I have to sign, it goes to GFL first.
Okay.
So can I just answer Liz, Trustee Smith's question before I
Yeah.
answer
Sure.
yours, just
Go
because
ahead.
I don't want to lose my train of thought. From a legal standpoint, our current contract has an expiration date. Gives the township the ability to extend by 1 year.
Right.
What I don't want to do is reopen negotiations. I want to just be able to extend as is. So any negotiations about new carts, I think, is more appropriate. Once we get past this 1 year, we go out for bids again and reopen those discussions.
That's
I just
fine.
don't
That
want to
makes sense.
risk it being a counteroffer and
In the
then.
meantime, I'm just curious of how we're going to handle, when residents need a
Can we ask
cart.
them how they handle damaged carts things that are damaged by them?
You can
I do
ask them
know that
anything you
there are
want. I just
trucks-
don't want to negotiate a new contract
Okay.
for
Okay,
that year
that's fine.
extension.
I didn't mean like officially negotiate, like can Trish just talk to them about, can she negotiate?
Yeah.
I do know that the priority trucks have, like they're boasting that they have a lot of cameras on
Yep.
them. So they might be more likely to replace it if they damaged it or know what happened to the can or, something like that.
Right, and I was going to say that too about they have a person, I forget the term for the employee, but they have a certain number of garbage trucks that they're responsible for. And with the cameras on the outside of the truck, all they do is watch that truck. And so they can radio them and tell them they missed recycling, go back. They know, they can take a picture if a resident says, I had my garbage out on time and they didn't. They can see the hydraulic fluid leaking in the street behind them and say, pull over, you're leaking. So that was one of the issues we had with the GFL with all that hydraulic fluid leaking. They don't know because a lot of times they just have one driver and they can't see that. And now they'll be able to see all of that stuff and hopefully that'll help remedy some of that, although GFL did improve their processes and it's been better. So that is how they handle, what they use the cameras for, so.
Okay, so my question was,
To answer your question about the resolution in front of you, that contract that's attached as Exhibit A is the current contract. It requires GFL to get prior consent of the township board before it can assign the contract. And I presume all local government contracts say the same thing, which is why Priority and GFL are sending this letter, which is attached as Exhibit B, which gives consent so that GFL can assign the contract to Priority. That's why they're doing this first.
Right.
And they need all of the local government's consent before the 25th, because they're closing, I believe, on the 30th.
Yeah.
So the resolution in front of you, all that does is accept, essentially consents to the assignment. But I added, some Lisa stuff in there about they need to provide us proof of insurance as soon as the sale goes through, some things that have to happen so that we have all their contact information for the notices and stuff like that.
the point I was trying to make with all the questions being asked is that once this gets approved by Priority and approved by us, they will have to honor this exact contract.
Yes,
Nothing
That's
changes.
correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And that contract gives us an opportunity to extend for 1 year with those same terms.
Right.
Sure. Got it.
And I had the conversation and they are agreeable. They were verbally agreeable to that.
Great.
It would be very interesting to be a fly on the wall inside their corporate headquarters, because it's like McDonald's buying out Burger King or something. What's in it for each side in order to make this happen?
I just don't really understand it, right? So you see Republic sell out, and then GFL came in. If you remember, they had all these rented trucks, they had all these new
Yeah.
trucks, and they're gonna change the world.
Right.
And then, now these guys are gonna change the world, and we'll see, I don't know. So,
Right.
Apparently
but the pool gets so much smaller each time. We're gonna go out to bid, and instead of 6 players, there's 4, and then there's 2, and I don't know, so.
Right.
Sounds like a monopoly.
They have been in business for 6 years, is another bit of information that we
Priority.
gleaned from that meeting, Priority.
Yeah, they were on the east side and in Detroit maybe, like,
Mr. Roman?
I'd just like to make a motion to approve Resolution 24-030, consenting to the assignment of our waste hauling services from GFL to Priority Waste, and to approve signing Exhibit B.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, it's approved. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
Okay, we're moving on to Section 10, Item G, request to approve agreement for central support services between Oakland County and White Lake Township. And this is a police issue, Mr. Chief.
I'll take that, if that's okay with you.
Lisa?
So this is, we tell you all the time with Oakland County contracts, they're generally non-negotiable. You take it or leave it. It's very one-sided. But for the most part, I believe that the township has always found that the benefits outweigh the downside of these types of agreements. This isn't anything different. I understand that these services are beneficial to the township. The prices are more fair than other providers for the services. What I will point out to you is the agreement is just like they normally do with their agreements, and they say, this is our agreement, and then they have exhibits, right? So if you check the box for Exhibit 1, you're accepting a particular service. If you check the box for Exhibit 2, you're accepting that service. And in this case, vehicle service is the only box that the police department has checked. So that's the only portion of the contract and exhibits that would apply. So in your packet, you have the agreement and the Exhibit 2, which is the vehicle services contract. I will say that the contract requires a resolution of the township board, which you do not have. But it's okay because we can just memorialize your motion into a resolution tomorrow, which I already have prepared and will send to Anthony and Douglas.
And that works?
Yes, it does work. the resolution would indicate that the township has determined that it will benefit to enter into an agreement with the county for the provision of central support services. It talks about the statutory authority for entering into interlocal agreements, and it authorizes it approves the central support services agreement, specifically incorporating Exhibit 2 vehicle services attached as Exhibit A to the resolution. And the Township Board resolves that the Township Supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement for central support services between the County of Oakland and the Township of White Lake and any necessary exhibits, addendums, or attachments thereto, and to bind the Township to the terms and conditions contained therein. And you can just move that motion.
Another question, if I could, this doesn't change our mutual aid to surrounding communities, correct? Don't we have mutual aid with or is that just fire department?
So this only deals with, we need new modems in our vehicles, which is the next item on the list. And we
Okay.
need to sign an agreement with them for, that allows them to have the agreement for them to do the services
Okay,
that we
because I was
need.
wondering why it didn't refer to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, but directly to the Oakland County. Now I understand, it's for
Yes.
hardware in our vehicles.
Yes.
Actually, the agreement is for all vehicle services,
Correct.
but on a as-needed basis. And the need right now is the modems.
Does that mean if our car breaks down, we could take it to Oakland County and they fix it?
No, that means for computer issues, the MDCs, the modems, any of the radios, all the departments in Oakland County, including the Sheriff's Department, goes up to Central Garage. This agreement solidifies that we are able to take these vehicles up there to have the modems, radios, and the electronics, not the camera system, correct, Chief?
Right. It gives us an extra avenue to use somebody else. It gives us a better avenue to get services done. It's just another avenue that we can use to get our computers done in our
Okay,
cars.
thank you.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion on this item.
I'd like to make a motion on item G to request approval. I'm sorry.
I think Lisa
Oh.
gave me the motion.
Oh, go ahead,
If-
sir.
If that's okay.
No, please take
I don't
it.
mean to step on your toes, but
They're short,
you
go
know how
ahead.
picky she is,
I know.
so. Motion is for the Township Board resolving to approve the Central Support Services Agreement, specifically incorporating Exhibit 2 attached as Exhibit A to this resolution, and that the Township Board resolves that the Township Supervisor is hereby authorized to execute the agreement for central support services between the County of Oakland and the Township of White Lake, and any necessary exhibits, addendums, or attachments thereto, and bind the township to the terms and conditions contained therein.
Great job.
Wow.
Good motion.
Wow.
Here,
Solid.
need support.
Looking for support?
I'll support.
Support by Clerk Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item H. This is the Cradle Point modem purchase. Request to approve the modem purchase for patrol vehicles. And I think tonight Mr. Ivory is going to handle this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so this is coming to you. Our 9 patrol cars are in need of new modems. Ours are aged out. We went through and got some bids from CDW, which is the company that Trish was talking about earlier with she was referencing a CW contract. We have a contract with them. This would have Clemis put in the modems, program the modems, and the agreement that you just voted on would allow county to install the modems for us, which is why that was on the agenda for tonight. So we are requesting 9. We have 9 marked cars in the fleet. Our unmarked admin cars do not have connectivity to them, which is why we have 9 here. You do have 2 options, different price points. One is a 3-year service agreement that gives us connection and service for 3 years, and then a 5-year. And the price, obviously, it goes up for the 5 years, but it's on a yearly basis, it's a little bit cheaper.
Great, thank you. Sure. Anybody have any questions or comments?
So all we need is 5 modems, or 9 modems, correct?
Yes, 9 modems.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was reading through this, I knew the answer, what your recommendation was before I even saw it. Because I agree, I think the one with a higher amount for the 5-year service provider absolutely makes more sense. If it was the 3-year was double, if it went from 18,000 to 36,000, that'd be one thing, but it's definitely a cost savings. So if we're up to me, I would recommend what they recommend.
I did break it down, and it's,
Yeah.
if you extrapolate it out, it's about a $2,200 savings.
So I did some numbers myself.
All right, any other questions?
What's your total that you need for the modems in the 5-year service?
9, 113, 38.
29, 113? No.
On top of, there's also the installation cost.
What?
There's also the installation cost, which is,
I was just doing the
30?
modem, sorry.
Oh, 31.
Yeah.
Make a motion, Mike.
31?
Sure.
31, 26708.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 5-year contract and the purchase of the 9 new modems with all their appurtenances for a total not to exceed $31,267,008 as quoted.
Great, I got a motion. I'll support that.
Roll call.
Roll call vote?
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
And Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Hannah, what dollar amount did
Great.
you have for that motion?
26708.
267.08. Okay, great.
All set? Thank you.
thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving on. Item I, 10I, Resolution 24029, White Lake Township Fee Schedule 2024-01. And this is Mr. Nobles.
This is going to, before you're going to be a resolution to approve the fee schedule, as you see before you tonight. Is there any questions towards it?
This is just a restatement of what we rescinded in the past in a different form.
Correct.
Yep.
Any questions?
It's just a matter of approving the motion.
Looking for a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 24-029, which is the White Lake Township fee schedule.
A motion?
Support?
Support by Mr. Powell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes. Okay. Item 10J, request to approve Pontiac Lake fireworks display. Something we see every year about this time. This is from the fire department. I know John's out of town, so we've got the next best thing. If anybody has any questions? Looking for a motion to approve the
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
permit application.
I'll make that motion to approve the fireworks for Pontiac Lake on July 2nd, 2024.
Motion and support by Liz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Do you have anything to say?
Did you have anything to say?
Anything?
No, it's the same thing every year.
Okay.
I was just here just in case you guys had questions.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
You're up-
you.
You're up again.
You're up again.
You should be able to come up with some question you can't answer.
You're up again.
10K, we're asking for approval. Request to approve the Cedar Island fireworks display this time. If anyone has any questions,
No, I'll make a motion to approve Cedar Island fireworks display for June 28, 2024.
a motion?
Support.
Support by Andrea. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. 10L, discussion regarding agreement for local fiscal recovery fund distribution between Oakland County and White Lake Township. Now, I understand that Supervisor Kowal has been handling this issue, and I'm not that familiar with it. I'm not sure if
Director Potter.
anybody else is.
If I can just comment briefly.
Uh-huh.
This is a grant application that I understand the supervisor's office worked with Mike Lufkin, the township engineer, to inquire into and apply for. In order for you to receive the funding, this agreement needs to be entered into. And I understand that there's some concern that we would not be able to meet our obligation. So before we pass a resolution to sign this agreement and bind the township, Supervisor Kowal, Mike Lufkin, and Aaron Potter felt it was important to bring it to the board to have an open discussion about whether it should go any further. And after that discussion, if it's determined it should, then it will be brought back to you with a resolution for adoption if that's what you wanted, or it doesn't come back.
Okay.
So that's why it's on as discussion.
Okay. Anybody want to discuss?
I can give you a little bit of backstory on the project that this was involved in. So a couple years ago, we had a drinking water revolving fund project that incorporated 4 or 5 different projects, including Cedar Island Lake Road water main from Bogey Lake, the new water main at Bogey Lake Road, over to the super sub, Twin Lakes 1 well house replacement. That one was going to be, that's another 1967 well house. Our last remaining 1967 well house that is in dire need of iron filtration upgrade. And there were a couple other small projects in that package. We put that together in an attempt to get a hold of some of the ARPA money or the America's infrastructure. I believe it was called the America's Rescue Infrastructure Act. None of the projects weren't initially ranked for funding, so we didn't go forward with it at the time. And as I said, we put that project plan together in an attempt to try to get some of the infrastructure grant funding that was out there. We did not get that funding. Most of that went to lead and copper service replacements in most of the larger cities in Michigan. But those projects are still out there. At the time, my understanding was Rick's office became aware of this through DLZ and put together an application to try to get a hold of some planning funding that was available through ARPA. And that's what this is. Basically, it's a grant for engineering, planning and engineering. And so we've discussed it a little bit. I've read through this contract several times. I still need to work with Lisa on determining exactly what we would be obligated to pay back should we decide not to construct the project. That DWRF project plan app that we put together was close to $10 million in projects. No, we may not want to go forward with all of those projects. Again, we were trying to get a hold of free money from the federal government. So we've had some discussion in our committee on whether or not this is something that we'd want to look into. Engineering plans oftentimes have a pretty long shelf life. So, you know, it's a 50% matching grant. I believe the application was, we were going to get $100,000. We were going to spend $100,000. So that's basically the backstory on what that was. A project that Rick included in the application looks like it was primarily the Cedar Island Lake Road water main. So I guess the main talking points for us are, does the board feel that this is something worth pursuing? Do we want to spend $100,000 on a project plan in order to get $100,000 from ARPA? And then, you know, then, like I say, we will be working with Lisa to determine what our obligations are under this. This is a pretty robust and elaborate contract. And, yeah, so that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Powell?
Aaron, is this the master plan layout that we saw in the subcommittee, or is this a grant to actually evaluate the best master plan to move forward with? Or are we looking to spend money on solidifying the existing master plan for the extension of the tying the two systems together?
This has nothing to do at all with the township's master plan. We do have in the township's master plan a future water main loop identified
Right.
down Cedar Island Lake Road.
Right.
This was specifically for engineering. Actually, I can read off the, so this was, brief summary was basically 17,350 linear feet of water main to connect Union Lake Road to the new extension down Bogey Lake Road. This is basically hydraulic modeling, bid plans and specifications, along with basically cost estimating and some other ancillary services. But it's essentially construction plans for bids.
I really think that, well, let me ask you, what's the timing on approving this? Because I looked at our plan, and I believe it's the plan that Aaron's talking about. It is committing the township to $100,000 that DLZ pockets. Of course, they get funded from both groups. But it's the route and the design of a water main that really is I think you said it was a $10 million project, correct?
The total DWRF project plan was $10 million, $9.25 million, something like that.
So
This was one of several projects that were in that.
In my opinion, it's kind of a pie-in-the-sky project. We're operating two totally separate systems right now, and it's always good to link the two together. There are another couple of options for being able to make them more reliant or backed up. This, in my opinion, is not unlike, and I'll just kind of tell a story that we designed a sanitary sewer master plan and plans for Highland Township to have sanitary sewers extended in the township. And when HRC took over as engineers for Highland Township, the fee was $1 million for those plans. But the cost to put it in was so great that they're on a shelf in Highland Township because you just can't afford to do that. And I'm not convinced that the people in the township are at a point to where spending $10 million to be able to pull these two systems together in an ideal situation. And Aaron knows Waterford Township hit all the timing just right to get federal funds to be able to install sanitary and water throughout the township. We are not in that position, and so it would be coming from us. And so I would not be in favor of spending this kind of money for putting us closer to a project that, quite frankly, I'm not convinced the people in White Lake can afford.
Mm-hmm. Well, just so that we're clear also, this is not an approval of moving forward with the DWRF project.
No, and you're absolutely correct, and I apologized if I said that wrong.
We
But
are in agreement. This would extend water main. It kind of creates two things. It does give both sides of the system reliability and redundancy.
Right.
It also provides water to all the residents along the route, and opens up developable areas along the route. So my understanding that there was a landfill in that area, this would cruise through. So, and it may also help some of those folks clean up contaminated wells by connecting to township water.
So what you're saying really is, although this is going to be a plan, engineering, construction drawings for a full project, we can piecemeal that project as we see necessary to extend it to certain areas without doing the entire development all at once. And I can certainly understand that.
The application basically does not say that we're going to piecemeal it. The application is that we're going to develop the plans for the Cedar Island Lake Road loop, specifically stating that it's going to be from Union Lake Road to Bogey Lake Road.
What was the cost on that again?
Well, I don't have the DWRF plan, but the total project plan was 9.25 million. We had in that plan a couple $1 million for iron filtration at Twin Lakes 1, and the demo and the rebuild of the well house at Twin Lakes 1, and the largest portion of the project was the water main extension.
Yeah.
So, $6-7 million. It's an expensive project.
I would personally rather see our money be put into a iron removal upgrade in our system, in our current systems, and get those in operation properly before we even anticipate a major water main project in the township. And I also believe that there's a large landholder that owns the property on the northwest corner of Cedar Island Road and Oxbow Lake Road, who has always planned on bringing water main down Cedar Island Road to serve that project as well. And so if we can count on some developers to extend our utilities, which we've been able to do in the past, and every community's been able to do that, I'd certainly rather take advantage of that than bind our township to another requirement.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of projects going.
Well,
A lot of
that is the question
expenditures.
is whether or not this
100,000
binds us to it, or is this, is this a plan that's part of our master plan? That we could get engineering plans on the shelf. They would likely be on the shelf.
Right.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
100,000 is not even gonna dent this project, so.
I was just curious, if we did sign this, is the money a sure thing, or does the county still have to go through a process to evaluate who gets and who doesn't?
No, the county has the funds. They would be reviewers on the project. Like I say, I'm still unclear on whether or not construction was included as a requirement in the grant funding being available to us. And I think Lisa also had question on that. So if it is determined that we're not required or obligated to construct the plan and that the grant is met just with the engineering and the bid specifications, my thoughts are if you can get somebody else to pay for half of those things and they're a master planned project, that they would have some shelf life. But I could see the other side of it as well. So it's why we wanted to have the discussion.
Let's make sure we understand that if we opt for this, we are going to be spending $100,000. But I think it has to be earmarked by the end of this year and has to be spent by the end of next year.
Correct.
So we are committing to $100,000 for engineering and all of that stuff. And I'm not convinced that's the right thing for the town.
Kind of what I'm hearing from you is not to put that money towards it, use it towards Twin Lakes iron filtration plan, which
In a heartbeat,
I'm in
that's
total
where I'd
agreement
go.
with. I just got done, had the opportunity to walk up to Aspen Meadows and
Right.
see that facility and talking to Director Potter. That seems to be the next big project that we need to address
That's
to
the way I
service
see
those
it.
residents. I think our money would be best spent that way.
Yeah, I think we have other priorities that we can actually accomplish with that 100,000 than maybe, somewhere down the road. And I think that will better serve our residents now.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm in agreement, just walk away from it.
Yeah,
What
me
happens if we
too.
do? Nothing really, or we, okay.
I mean, that's kind of what you indicated to me last, when we were at the Aspen Meadows. That's your
Yeah,
next
we're
big
not
push, right?
obligated- We're not obligated to anything. We could walk away at any time.
But you think we should spend it towards Twin Lakes? That'd be a better service to use the money towards?
Well, let's just clarify, I don't have $100,000 budgeted yet, but I haven't put my budget together yet for the 25 calendar year. So I would love to start knocking out the engineering on Twin Lakes 1 iron filtration. I think that our residents demand it. The huge success that we've had with we've got 2 iron filtration plants now that are meeting probably 70% of the demand of the township.
Right.
But this time of year, when it's 90 out, right now, we're running Twin Lakes 1 and Twin Lakes 2 every day. So, people are frustrated with rusty water. I would think that our priority should be to,
Get rid of the rust.
get rid of the rust. But that being said, if we can extend water main into an area where we know that people have some contaminated wells, we know that we can open up some area for development, future development. There's a lot of benefit to that as well. So that's where you folks come in and you get to make the big bucks.
So we can buy
decisions.
we can buy a used car now and use it, or we can buy a Mercedes-Benz and put it on in a garage and use it sometime when we might want it in the future.
Right. Yeah. We don't make the big bucks, but we get to make the big decisions. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are we thinking? Just put it on the shelf?
Yep, no action?
No action?
No action.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right. Great. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item M, review of annual treasury report from Mr. Mike Roman.
Yeah, so I pulled this out of the consent agenda this month just because it's a little thicker packet. It's got bank ratings in it. It's got a little bit of information on where our retiree healthcare money sits, which is the MERS total market portfolio fund, as well as returns on that fund. I put some benchmarks in the back. Wow, so over the year 2023, we took in $766,000 of interest income on the general police, building, and fire money, which we keep in the same bank accounts. Financial institutions received good scores. We did have a bit of a scare as Flagstar Bank was purchased by New York Community Bank.
Jeez.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, New York Community Bank was having issues. So we immediately FDIC'd all of our money there and made sure that that money was safe. The average yield was right around 3.37. Treasury bill yields, as far as benchmarks, which are the last page, were actually higher. And the reason we came in below that was really diversification. You just can't lock up all your money and you can't put it all in the same spot. And the Oakland County Municipal Pool had a little lower yield. But it was a good year. Legacy costs, we continue to transfer into the MERS system for OPEB. We just put in another $655,000. So that fund is doing very well. And then as our auditors discussed today, our pension fund will hopefully make a comeback with better investment returns in 2023. Does anyone have any questions on this?
I don't. No, look great.
Anybody?
I really appreciate the information.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say nice job with moving things around and keeping your eye on as the banks are closing and switching. Treasurer Roman keeps a good eye.
Yeah, great job, Mike.
Great job.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, move on to item
We
N.
make a motion to receive and file this, or is it just an information-only
It's information.
report?
I don't know. I would appreciate if someone would make that motion.
So, Mr. Chair, I move to receive and file the report, the 2023 report by Treasurer Roman.
Second. Okay.
We got motion, support by Ms. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Moving on to N, request to approve Elizabeth Lake Road sanitary sewer crossing proposal. So,
Mr. Ruggles,
We've got
I believe Lee Merrill from DLZ is in the crowd, and
Oh, great.
I'm going to ask him to come up and explain what we're doing here.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So as part of the Elizabeth Lake Road reconstruction project that we're currently working on, the road project, the designs for that are ahead of where the Civic Center designs are for the town hall development, as well as the police and fire department. So when we were drafting and creating our plans for Elizabeth Lake Road, at the time, we were not aware of the final location that was going to be needed to provide pressure sanitary sewer services for the future Civic Center development. As the township's architect, Beckett and Rader, has gotten further along in their design plans for the town hall and for police and fire department public services building, we have nailed down some more or final appropriate locations to bring that pressure sanitary sewer service from the northeast side of the road to the southwest side of the road. The resolution that was brought before you guys today is to add the additional cost to bring those services from the northeast side of the road to the southwest side of the road. The current pressure sanitary sewer main is on that northeast side, but with the development being on the southwest side, we want to bring the services across the road before that road is fully constructed. Because if we do that after the road is constructed, the contractor to do those services will have to cut open the road and damage the brand-new road that is, will be constructed and finalized this year. So we did reach out to our contractor for the roadway project, and they provided a service cost. Originally, I believe it was $116,000 to do the sanitary sewer services, as well as to complete some exploratory investigation on where the finally constructed pressure sewer main was located. Because originally, when we did our design plans, it was just based off of the as-built plans from several years ago. So after we discussed with the township, there was some concerns about the total cost that was presented by the contractor. We went back to the contractor, discussed some of the concerns with the cost, as well as the schedule impacts that would have if we were to attempt to have another contractor come in and perform that work. So ultimately, that contractor did bring down their price to just under $96,000, which appears to be right in line.
$95,470?
Yes, which appears to be right in line with the anticipated costs for those installations.
So these would happen before the road gets paved?
Yes, these would take place within the next couple of weeks before the roadway is installed. That way we wouldn't be digging up any of the new roadway.
I just want to clarify, we don't have a resolution before us. Are we supposed to?
No, I think he referenced a resolution, but it's actually a bid or proposal.
Not just this,
Change order for the
just this
contract.
revised?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then I did want to, bring up that in the board meeting, when the original contract for Elizabeth Lake Road reconstruction was approved, the board did approve an 8% contingency to the project, which is just under $246,000. So that contingency would cover this additional cost if the board elected to have that be the method of funding for it. But since this was kind of an out-of-scope item, from the original project, we wanted to bring it in front of you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I could supplement what Lee talked about a little bit, and this can also be a supplement to item 11, Civic Center update. What's being requested is the ability to make some taps in the Elizabeth Lake Road roadway instead of waiting until after we have all new pavement and everything. So we have a 2-inch sanitary sewer tap proposed for Stanley Park. That's to the southern end of the project. So we would run that over and tie and leave it stubbed off in the Stanley Park, just west of the Stanley Park entrance itself, so that when it's tapped into for any future development at Stanley Park, we don't have to go into and under Elizabeth Lake Road for that. The next 2-inch tap is for the DPS building. So the DPS building will be constructed, and there'll be a sanitary sewer coming out of that building. There'll be a grinder pump station installed for that building, and that grinder pump will pump into the other 2-inch sanitary sewer lead that is being talked about now. There are 2 other taps being proposed. One is a 4-inch tap just to the north side of the Township Board, Township Hall roadway. And the Township Hall will tie into that, and we'd only really need a 2-inch tap for that, but we are trying to be a little proactive, and any private development that goes in within a couple hundred feet of the Township Hall will also need to tie into the sanitary sewer. So instead of having them have to bore under the road for their buildings, we're bringing a larger tap over for the Township Hall, and any buildings around the Township Hall can use that same 4-inch line. Then for the ultimate future, over where the roundabout's going to be, we know that there's going to be buildings around that roundabout, and then also for the apartments, potential apartments that could be along the wetland line down the hill a little bit to the west. We wanted to make sure there was capacity for that. So the bottom line is we're just trying to anticipate any possibility of us having to dig up the Elizabeth Lake Road after we've gone through such an expense to rebuild the whole thing. So that being said, that's what these costs are. We did reach out to Springline and ask them to reevaluate a little bit, and I wanted to commend them, quite frankly, for we in White Lake Township have gotten the short end of the stick sometime for contractors that don't exhibit loyalty and appreciative of our work here in the township. I wanted to reach out to Springline and say thank you very much for showing some loyalty and some appreciation for having the contract with White Lake Township, and I think they stepped up in this case, and I appreciate that.
Great.
Mr. Powell, just for the public that was listening, I think you misspoke when you said a DPS building and you meant the public safety building.
I did, thank you.
We don't have a DPS
Public safety.
building.
Yeah, that is correct.
They literally stole the name of our department.
Yes.
So now I have to change the name of all, my department, all of our publications, trucks, everything.
Used to be Department of Public Services, which is water and sewer. Now it's fire and police.
Right.
I think you guys should fund
Okay.
it.
Any other comments? If not, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to request to approve Elizabeth Lake Road sanitary sewer crossing proposal at the current price of $95,470.
Support?
The motion, I have support. All in favor? Oh, wait. Aye.
So
just
that's in
gonna
addition
ask
to the
for-
contingency.
Well, I was
right?
going to ask for direction as to whether or not you wanted this to come from the contingency or
That's a good
do
question.
it separately, which Lee had mentioned, there's about $250,000 contingency. This would put a good dent in it, but it would fall under that original approval as far as the allocation of funds for this
Bottom
project.
line, the money's coming from this
It is.
township anyway, so I don't want them to have to come back if they end up with a major problem on Elizabeth Lake Road anyway.
I don't disagree. I just wanted to make sure you cited, I guess, where you wanted it to come from.
So we're going to go with contingency? It really doesn't matter.
No, this
Doesn't
is
matter.
Outside the contingency.
Outside the contingency? Okay.
It
so-
really, quite frankly, should come from the township property account, not Elizabeth Lake Road account, because it's going to serve the township property and the buildings, not have anything to do with Elizabeth Lake Road.
Okay.
So we'll let accounting and treasurer deal with that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll want it read in the record, it's going to be outside the contingency. Also, Lisa tells me that we need to re-vote and have a recall, or a roll call vote on that.
Okay, we can do that.
Roll
We
call
can
vote.
recall to,
Trustee Powell?
yes.
Trustee Voorhees?
Yes.
Treasurer Roman?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Trustee Ruggles?
Yes. Okay, it is approved.
Awesome.
And now we're on to Civic Center update, which Mr. Powell started. I don't know if he has any more, you have any more comments, Mike?
I do not, but we're certainly out for bids for the site work, and we're looking, when do the bids open?
Thursday at 10 a.m.
Thursday at 10 a.m.
When do you think it's
McCarthy
going
and
to get
Smith.
going?
Pardon?
When do you think it's going to get going out there?
So Thursday at 10 a.m., there'll be the bid opening. Then next week, they'll kind of do the interviews and kind of the follow-up the following, next week. And then you have a special board meeting on July 1st at 5:30, and that meeting will be for bid award. The building committee will meet earlier on the 1st to just kind of go through everything, make sure everybody's up to speed on the committee. And then when it comes to the full board, you'll all discuss it and take action. It should be pretty straightforward. I'm sorry, really quick. I talked to Aaron, and I think we had a meeting on site, roughly 10 or 11 interested parties showed up, and he can't see the bids, but he can see who's participating, like by company, and there's 9 already. So he thinks that that's a really excellent sign, and I would agree.
I do too.
So there's 2 things that we're really interested in. Number one, the bottom line cost. My personal opinion is that the bottom line cost should be greatly reduced from what has been estimated so far. But another major issue is when can the contractor get started? And both of those are going to be in the bid opening, and we should know that. So those are huge issues.
We let everyone know at the pre-bid meeting that we were planning on September start, but that we were open to starting sooner. We wanted them to start sooner. The feedback he had gotten from the contractors on the street was that everybody's booked through the end of the summer, so you're looking at a someday in September start. So we made sure that we cited that as the date, so we didn't discourage anyone from bidding, but let them all know quite clearly that we prefer to start earlier. So if, let's say, their bid was X number of dollars to start September 15th, but if we wanted them to start, August 15th, there would be a premium of Y number of dollars, and we would be able to say, okay, well, we can start a whole month earlier and get further ahead in the site work, which pushes the project schedule, ahead, but it's going to cost us a certain, premium. But that's something for the board to decide whether or not they want to entertain. And that's an option. That's not a requirement of the bidders.
It's a pretty quick turnaround, July 1st to, September. I mean, that's a short period of time. Get a big outfit to show up.
That's right. And as far as the buildings are concerned, the final designs are done. Never are they perfect, so we call them like the 99 sets. So that last 1% on both buildings is being worked on now, and they issue something called an addendum. Both architects have an addendum due on the 24th. So next week, we're expecting an addendum. I think we've got some low voltage security and IT stuff that we've got to iron out for Township Hall on the 27th. So my hunch is that Stu's addendum will not be together on the 24th, not because he's not ready to turn it in, but he's waiting for those other components to be kind of worked out. In most projects where it's an institution, a university, a hospital, a school district that has like a facilities management group, you would take IT, low voltage, security, and you would have the facilities group that do that kind of thing all the time, handle the administration of that contract with contractors. We don't have that, and it will be a mess if we try to do it here because none of us do that. So we're rolling all that in. I think the initial thought was it would be separate. I think we're going to roll all that in. It's in all the designs now, and McCarthy and Smith would then manage it, and their fee would just extend to those items, and it's frankly fairly reasonably priced to begin with. So I think that's how that is going to end up being proposed to you, or it's going to come back to you. So when we get the final designs together, the bids should go out in July, in mid-July, and then by early August, this is all, until we have everything, this is all sort of rough, but we're hoping that by early August or mid-August, we'll be able to bring that same bid package back to you for award at a special meeting if it's early August, or maybe it's your regular meeting if it's middle of August. So we're moving ahead. I don't know, site work's going to drive when buildings can start, because you've got to have all the land balancing done, a lot of the utilities in before you start some of the building work. So we're making good progress. We're getting near the end of, the design is done. It's just kind of putting the finishing touches and cleaning some things up so that we get better bids. Things are more clearly conveyed to the bidders, so.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Roman? Anything to add?
Nope.
Nope, okay. Well, with that being said, then we're going to move into closed
Mr.
session.
Chair?
Yes.
Would it make some sense, and sorry I didn't catch this when we approved the agenda, does it make sense to do the trustee comments prior to going into closed session, so the television can be closed down and the residents here can leave instead of waiting for us to come back out of closed session?
Can we do that?
Yes.
I think we have to come back out publicly, so,
We do, but we can have the television camera leave and shut down.
no, he can't leave until we come back out,
Well,
right?
He can, but somebody will need to take minutes
yeah,
to close.
that's done all the time. So it's just a suggestion that we change things to allow people to go home, and then we'll come back and we'll close, and Clerk Noble is an excellent note taker, so.
So we would have to make a motion to amend the agenda right now?
Yes, we would make a motion to move the trustee comments up to 11A.
If that's what you'd like, Mike, you can make that motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move to move the trustee comments to 11A.
Hang on a second, hang on. I forgot something. Can we do that without a full board? I don't know if we
I'll
can.
amend the agenda.
Can we
On a
amend the
regular meeting,
agenda
I think we
without a
can.
full board?
Special meeting you can't, but a regular meeting
I'll
you can.
support it anyway.
Okay, okay. All right, keep going, sorry.
Move the trustee comments to 11A prior to going into closed session.
Support.
Support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, we're now into trustee comments. So, Andrea, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll make it quick. I just want to say congratulations to Aaron on a fun Aspen Meadows tour. I had told a couple of friends I was going. I'm like, I know this is geeky, but I need to go there. So it was very fun. It's a very impressive building from where the other one was. And congratulations to Dan on a successful police open house. It was fun since we had a family emergency. It was fun not to be the worker. It was fun to be the resident this year. So, good job.
Okay, Liz?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple library updates. They had a very successful book sale. They made over $7,000. Each book sale becomes a record-breaking for the Friends of the Library, so that's great. Their next book sale will be sometime, most likely in September. Their summer reading program is off and running, and they have a ton of fun things planned at the library. You can get there for the entire time of the construction, so I encourage, from M59, I encourage you to still go there and enjoy yourself. They will have music programs, concerts, food trucks. They have all kinds of stuff. It's like a really fun summer planned. They also, the Friends of the Library are also offering for the first time library signs that you can pick up to put in your yard. They say, I love my library. It's just a little fun something to support them. There's no cost to them, but you do, they hope that you reserve one so they know how many. The police open house was a wonderful success. I want to thank the police department for all their hard work and organization and all the residents that came out. And then we talked a lot about technology today. There's nothing more frustrating when it's not up to par. So my only thoughts are I would have liked to consider it a little bit more so that we're giving our employees the best possible technology because, as we know, the world is dependent on it, and then our residents are dependent on us to give them that information. So it's important that our employees in township it is important they have good technology. And then I I think that's about it. You know, it's super hot out. Make sure that you are checking on your neighbors, bringing your pets in. And the Dublin Senior Center and Library are a good place to cool off, and you're welcome there if you don't have AC. And I just want to say, I so enjoy working with this board. Everybody works really well together, and we've been accomplishing really great things for our residents, and it's just wonderful. So, thank you.
Thanks. Mr. Powell?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to let our supervisor know that our prayers and best wishes for him. He's a little under the weather tonight, and we look forward to him being back in his chair next month. And we all appreciate everything that he does. And then I'm going to reach out and just remind our residents that there's a major decision that's going to be made this year on the election of the different options for the future of our wonderful country. And it comes to mind that if we don't learn history and we don't remember history, then we're doomed to relive it. And there is there's a history of a country that was warned that if they took a certain route, they wouldn't like the outcome. That if they gave too much power to the government, they would then, thinking that the government would take care of them, they didn't realize what would be asked of them for all that security, and they'd lose their freedoms. And it's just happens to be the state of Israel prior to Christ coming. And in 1 Samuel 8:11 through 18, Samuel warned Israel that if they wanted a king, be aware what the king would do to them. They would take their kids, they would take their family, they would take their land, they would take all their belongings, they would take all their crops, and they wouldn't like the end result. They decided to do that anyway, and they regretted it after that. So I just ask everyone to search their heart as to who they ought to vote for this fall. And if you want to study it any further, then 1 Samuel 8:11 through 18 is a great place to go to learn about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Thanks, Scott. Well, today I'd like to thank Springline Excavating LLC for your willingness to take on this new sewer project with these leads across Elizabeth Lake Road. And thanks for your flexibility in your pricing. Also want to thank Sean, Mr. Powell, and our clerk, Mr. Noble. We gathered late in the day, and Mr. Powell brought up that the price that was originally proposed was on the high side. We all teamed up, got with Lee from DLZ, and were able to cut this price down by, what was it, 21,000? So thanks for all your team efforts, everybody, and really looking forward to seeing this Elizabeth Lake Road project move forward.
Yes.
Great. Clerk Noble?
I'd like to thank the chief for a great police open house again, successful. All the volunteers, Bob Andre cooks a mean hot dog. A great tour up at Aspen Meadows by the DPS. Very interesting. If anybody has a chance, go up there. You could eat off the floors. It's a beautiful place. I look forward to the next project. And I'd like to thank Elaine and Dawn for another incredible audit again. And working with Treasurer Roman about the pricing and always doing what we're supposed to do is look out for the taxpayers' money, and working out a deal with, again, to extend that with DLZ, that operating agreement. That's it.
Great. And just real quick, before we go into closed session, I'd say Planning Commission meets on Thursday, and we won't be meeting at all in July. That's correct, right, Sean?
That's correct.
Nothing in July. And Supervisor Cole, I hope you're feeling better. I'm doing my best to fill in for him here, and I hope I'm doing okay. I bought a book of dad jokes, but they're not as good as his, so I'm gonna get another one. So with that being said, make a motion to go into closed session. Approval to recess into closed session to consider attorney-client privileged communication in accordance with MCL 15.2681H.
I'll second that.
Roll call
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Trustee Ruggles?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman?
Yes.
Trustee Powell?
Yes.
And Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.